In today's video, I'm going to break down exactly how to either lose weight or gain weight on the carnivore diet. By the end of this video, you're going to be able to manipulate your weight with ease. Literally, with the click of your fingers, you're going to be able to choose what weight you want to be, and in a few weeks' time, you will be at that weight. If you want to lose weight and get ripped, you'll be able to do that. And if you want to gain weight, go on a bulk assay, you're going to be able to do that also. And if you're sitting there and thinking to yourself, why should I listen to this random dude on the internet with questionable choices in both the haircut and the facial hair department, then you'll be glad to know that I've both lost 35 pounds on the carnivore diet and got lean, and also gained about 20 pounds on a bulk assay. So at least to some degree, I know what I'm talking about. In this video, we're going to be looking at 5 key aspects on the carnivore diet that will influence your weight. These include dairy, the amount you eat, whether or not you're exercising, the frequency of your meals, and the type of meat you're consuming and how you prepare it. Now, before I get into my first point of dairy, I need to clarify one key concept. When we eat food, it provides us with energy. Now, all fat on our body is excess energy that's being stored as fat. So when we eat more food than we burn, and therefore have excess energy, we start to gain fat. And when we consume less energy than we burn, we start to tap into our own body fat and we lose fat. Now, this is a hard fact that nobody will dispute. So in order to lose weight, we need to decrease the amount of energy we're consuming, or we need to upregulate our metabolisms and burn more energy. Now, one of the first things that happens on the carnivore diet, because we're removing all the toxins from our body, is that all of our cells start to clear up and heal. Now, I've talked about this many times before on this channel, but our cells are literally what produce our energy. So when our cells clear themselves and heal, what happens is that they can produce a lot more energy. And when you're more energized, you talk with more energy. Everything you do, you put more energy into it. Now, this is called NEAT, which stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And on the carnivore diet, this increases massively. For most people, you'll probably honestly burn an extra 500, maybe even to 1,000 calories per day. Now, there have been studies that have shown this increasing up to 2,000 calories per day. However, results like that would be considered outliers. And for the average person, like I said, probably looking at a 500 to 1,000 calorie increase. Now, this is great news. Who doesn't want to have more energy? Who doesn't want to feel better? So for this reason and many other reasons, which I broke down in my latest video, what happens is that for most people, when they go on carnivore, they just start dropping a lot of weight. So if you are new to carnivore, I don't want you to implement everything I'm talking about in this video. Just eat fatty meat when you're hungry till you're full, and for the vast majority of you, you will see the pounds dropping off without having to think too much about what you're doing. But for those of you who have been on the carnivore diet for more than 30 days, and you want your weight to come down or to go up, I need you to remember the key concept, that when we eat more energy than we burn, our weight will go up. And when we burn more energy than we eat, our weight will start to go down. So for every point in this video, the underlying basis of each point is that we're either going to influence the amount of energy we're taking in or influence the amount of energy we're expending. One of the most contentious words in the carnivore community is the word calories. Even saying it, I can feel the hate comments coming towards me. But for the purpose of this video, to make it as simple as possible, I'm going to refer to energy as calories. Now, I know it's a flawed system, as we are not a closed thermodynamic system, and we use calories for so many more functions than just energy. However, in my opinion, when it comes to measuring energy, the calorie method is by far the most straightforward, which means that every single person watching this video will understand it. And that is my goal with these videos, to make it so that every single person can watch these videos, understand what I'm saying, and make the necessary changes that will benefit their life. So before you go down to the comments and tell me how wrong I am and that the calorie equation is not completely accurate, I do agree with you. However, I do think it's accurate enough, and like I said, it just makes things simple. Alrighty, firstly, let's talk about dairy. This right here, in my opinion, is the biggest lever you can pull in regards to manipulating your weight on the carnivore diet. Dairy is designed for a species to grow. When do humans make dairy? When they need an infant to grow. When do cows make dairy? When they need their infant to grow. Dairy fundamentally is designed for the growth of a species. And as I've said many times, if you stop growing up, the only way you're going to grow is out. Now, there are many mechanisms in dairy that do this. A lot of dairy contains carbohydrates, which we know messes with our hunger signaling, spikes our blood sugar up and down, as well as the fact that it blocks some of our key hunger hormones from functioning properly, such as leptin, as well as the fact that dairy itself is high in calories. Dairy also contains a hormone known as beta-casomorphin, which acts as an opioid-like substance, making it addictive, so you want to eat more and more of it. Think about it, as soon as you add dairy to your carnivore diet, I bet you start thinking about it a little bit. Now, this is great if you're trying to grow. If you're trying to gain weight, dairy is an ally of yours. And if you're trying to lose weight, you definitely want to cut back on the dairy a little. Now, is dairy inflammatory and therefore harmful to us? Honestly, when it's pasteurized, I do think it is. When dairy is pasteurized, meaning they heat the dairy up to a temperature where it kills the bacteria and makes it shelf stable for a long period of time, what happens is that it messes with the proteins in it and makes it inflammatory to us. I personally noticed that when I consume pasteurized dairy, my skin breaks out big time. It's genuinely terrible. A couple weeks ago, I consumed more dairy than I normally would, and my skin broke out big time. I had a date to go on, and before I left, I looked at my skin in the mirror, and I remember thinking to myself, geez, Max, you better be extra funny tonight. It's quite unbelievable. When I'm strict on carnivore and don't have any pasteurized dairy, my skin is flawless. But as soon as I add it back in, it starts to break out. However, and keep in mind that I'm not a health professional yet, I haven't finished my degree, so technically this is just coming from someone who spent an absurd amount of time on the internet, but I do genuinely believe that having some pasteurized dairy is better than starving to death from malnourishment. Now I'm sure there's some vegans out there who would like me to provide a study proving that, since they're largely a group of individuals that are incapable of following their own intuition and logical thinking abilities. However, that is my hunch. So if you are severely underweight, add some dairy into your diet so you can gain some weight. However, I would try to incorporate my next 4 tips first and only use the dairy thing as a last resort, as like I've just talked about. It is somewhat inflammatory. So basically, more dairy, an energy increase, and you're going to gain weight. Less dairy, energy decrease, which means you're going to start losing weight. Use accordingly depending on your goals. Now the second point is to adjust the amount of food you're eating. I see a lot of people in the carnivore space say you can eat as much fatty red meat as you want and you will basically just lose all your weight and have the body of your dreams. Now whilst they're not completely wrong, I think that statement needs a serious disclaimer put on it. You can eat as much fatty red meat as you want when you are hungry and over a long enough time horizon, you will look how you want to look. First of all, at the start of carnivore, a lot of people go through a healing phase. Now this is especially prevalent in people who haven't been eating a lot of red meat before they went on carnivore. What happens is you eat lots of meat, which is incredibly nutrient dense and provides your body with exactly what it needs. And your body's like, oh my goodness, this stuff's incredible. Give me more of it. Your appetite upregulates itself and you end up eating way more than you typically would if you're a few months into the carnivore diet. And then you also have a lot of people that eat every time they get bored. Now carnivore is literally like the only diet where you can have the body of your dreams without ever being hungry. But if you're someone who every time they get a little bit bored just smashes down a massive plate of meat, the chances are your weight is going to plateau at some point. Now the reason people do this is because their brain is seeking a hormone called dopamine. Now dopamine plays a number of roles in the body, but to put it simply, dopamine makes you feel good. And food provides tremendous amounts of this. So the best trick is when you want something to eat, you need to ask yourself, am I bored or am I hungry? If you're hungry, absolutely eat something. But if you sit there and consciously think about it and you come to the conclusion that you're bored, all you need to do is find another way that you can give your brain the dopamine it's craving. Now maybe it's a walk around the block listening to your favorite tunes. Maybe it's a fail army compilation on YouTube. Or maybe it's watching a YouTube video made by some random dude from New Zealand who sits in a dark room and talks to you about the carnivore diet with a slideshow presentation next to him. Whatever your method is, I think you'll find that as soon as you give your brain some dopamine in another way, you'll stop thinking about food. But again, like I said, if you're hungry, eat something. So if you want to gain weight, just consciously eat a lot more. Even if you're not hungry, just eat some more food. There are some people who just genetically have small appetites, so if you do want to gain a considerable amount of weight, you might just have to eat even sometimes when you're not hungry. Now another thing to consider is that fat is higher than protein in calories. So if you are trying to lose weight and you've tried everything else, maybe you just cut back on the fat a little. What I do when I'm in a leaning out phase is something called fat cycling. So instead of having a high fat meal for breakfast, a high fat meal for lunch, and a high fat meal for dinner, what I'll do is I'll have a moderate fat meal for breakfast, a high fat meal for lunch, and a moderate fat meal again for dinner. However, do note how every single meal has at least a moderate amount of fat. On carnivore, you never want to have meals that have absolutely no fat. All this is going to do is make you feel terrible. You're not going to feel full, and obviously you don't want that in the first place, but what this is going to do is just make you eat more. So make sure if you do incorporate fat fasting, you're at least having a moderate amount of fat with each meal. If you're interested to see exactly how I do this, I made a full day of eating video like a week or two ago now, which breaks down exactly what I eat in a day. And then if you're trying to gain weight, just add more fat to all your meals. A super easy way to do this is just to get a slab of butter and chuck it on your meal. Third thing we're going to talk about is exercise, in particular lifting weight. If you want to lose weight, think about it like this. If you gain 5 to 10 kilograms of lean muscle mass in the next year and your weight stayed the exact same, you have now just lost 5 to 10 kilograms of fat. Your body will literally recomp itself like magic. Well, maybe magic's not the right word because that's kind of what happens when you lift weight and your body recomps itself. But I mean, it kind of seems like magic. As well as the fact that let's say you lost all the weight that you wanted to the point that you basically had no fat. At that point, you're just going to look skinny. You want to have at least a little bit of muscle. And what happens is when you're underweight, your body's going to be like, ah, shoot, we don't have any nutrients that we can draw from our fat stores because we're so lean. So we need to increase our appetite so that we can grow, and therefore the next time we're put under this amount of stress, we're prepared for it. So if you're underweight, by lifting weights, you're going to upregulate your appetite and it's going to cause you to eat more, and therefore you'll gain weight. Also, for my older viewers that are watching, lifting weights or doing some sort of resistance training is literally one of the best things you can do for your health. Heaps of people, as they get older, they become more frail, and then they have an accident like a fall or something, and it seriously impedes their health. But if you're strong, muscular, and fit, if you have that exact same fall, you're going to be fine. Lifting weights or at least doing a lot of push-ups per day is something that's seriously going to benefit everyone, so I highly recommend it. The next point I'm going to touch on is how frequently you're eating. Now, some people like to argue that insulin affects your body's ability to tap into its own fat. However, every study on this topic has shown that as long as your caloric output stays the same for the day, it doesn't matter if you eat all those calories in one massive meal or you have like 5 small meals. Now, when you're fasting, other hormones like growth hormone increase, which means you'll get more muscle mass. However, all of these things are pretty nuanced, so as a general rule, I wouldn't worry too much about how many meals you're eating. If we look at it from a logical perspective, if you're eating 3 meals per day and you now cut it down to 2, you're essentially getting rid of 33.3% of the calories you're eating. And by this point, we all know what's going to happen to our physique when we decrease the amount of energy we're eating. And then if you flip it around and increase the number of meals you're eating from 2 to 3 per day, you're essentially going to increase the amount of calories you're eating by 50%. So to gain weight, eat more frequently. And then to lose weight, eat when you're hungry. The final thing you want to consider when regulating your weight on carnivore is the type of meat you're eating and how you prepare it. So if you're eating ruminant animals like beef or lamb, which are not only the most nutrient-dense type of meat, but also contain the least toxins, if you're underweight, because it's just the perfect food, your body's going to be like, oh, give me more of this stuff. And then like I just said, if you're overweight, you're only going to need a small amount of it to get your nutrient requirements, so you're not going to need to eat as much. Now you want to be careful with things like spices and even sauces, is because these things are plants, they are defended, and therefore they're going to have defense mechanisms in the plant that affect us. And so over time, if you're eating meat with these toxins on it, these toxins are going to build up and your body's going to be like, whoa, 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 give me less of this stuff. So if you're someone who's trying to gain weight, you do not want your body to be sending this feedback mechanism to you. This will cause your appetite to down-regulate. So if you're looking for a way to consume more meat, you definitely don't want to be putting spices on it. And even just for your overall health and energy levels, it's a lot better not to include spices on your meat. I've made an entire video on this topic, and it's actually my most popular video, where I break down how putting spices on your meat is going to seriously affect in the long run how much you like meat. Alrighty, to summarize. Now in this video there is quite a lot to unpack, so let me make everything as simple as possible for you so you know what your next step is. If you are trying to gain weight, eat as much fatty ruminant meat as you can. Start lifting weights, and if that doesn't work, then add some dairy. If you're trying to lose weight, cut back on the dairy, eat fatty meat when you're hungry till you're full, don't eat when you're bored, start exercising, start lifting weights, and if that doesn't work, start fat cycling like I talked about. It literally is that straightforward. That's the thing with the proper human diet. If you eat like a human, you end up looking exactly how a human is meant to look. Anyway, I think that's basically all there is to it. I do offer coaching, but to tell you the truth, I think for the vast majority of you, you don't actually need it. In my videos, I share with you everything I need to know, and if you just take notes on these things, I think you'll find that you'll achieve all your goals pretty quickly. If you're doing the carnivore diet right, it is seriously simple to achieve the body you want, especially over a long enough time horizon. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing down below. It's completely free, and it means you'll see more of my videos. YouTube also reckons that you, yes you, I'm talking to you personally, Craig, that you will like this video right here. I bet there's at least one dude called Craig who's just watched that and he's in shock right now. But anyway, like I said, the YouTube algorithm reckons that you personally will like this video.